My name's Sharon Preston. One of the areas of law that I practice is employment law. Essentially, you have to be paid for all the time that you work. One exception to that is your meal period. You don't have to be paid for your meal periods, but the mere fact that the company calls it a meal period doesn't mean that you don't get paid for it. For example, if I have an employee and I say, here's your half-hour break, but I still want you to sit at your desk and take phone calls during your meal period, I have to pay them for that time. I'm not allowing them to leave the office. I'm not allowing them to use that time for their own benefit. They're using that time primarily for my benefit. Now, they may be able to eat their meal while they're sitting there, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to pay them. A lot of people get confused about eating their lunch versus having that half-hour or hour period to use primarily for their own benefit. The mere fact that you were allowed to eat your lunch doesn't mean that the employer is free from having to pay you. You have to have, it has to be a minimum of a half hour, but you have to have a half hour or more where you're allowed to use that time for your own benefit. So if you're required to stay at your place of employment and be on call, be subject to being recalled to tend to work-related matters, and you really can't use that time primarily for your benefit, you should be paid for that time. Something that is relevant when a court decides if you have to be paid for your meal periods or not is how often are you actually called back to duty. So sometimes the mere fact that you have to remain on the premises is not enough to require that you be paid. But if you have to remain on the premises and your lunch period is subject to be interrupted with job-related duties and frequently is interrupted, it could be that every single one of those lunch periods have to be compensated. The best thing you could do is talk to a lawyer that's experienced in these matters so that lawyer can help you figure out whether you're owed overtime.